Alright, well, welcome to another edible and medicinal plants video. Looking for two plants today. One of them is Queen Anne's lace. And I just passed them back there, the parking lot. I'm here at Swatara State Park, one of my favorite places to come. The parking lot is packed. This is July 3rd, so maybe a lot of people have off. Anyway, I did see some, well, there's just some right here. I saw some back there as well. So oh, there's a deer up there. Okay, well, it's gone. Anyway, getting distracted. Alright, there's one Queen Anne's lace here, but I'll show you a larger specimen back there. Also looking for a plant called chicory. So we'll do a video on that as well. I picked Queen Anne's lace for a reason today, which we'll talk about later. And growing right up here is a rather large specimen of it, Queen Anne's lace. Of course, the lace part of the name should be quite evident. They go by other names too, as well as wild carrot. We'll talk about those too. And it can be confused a lot with some other plants, which is one reason why I'm doing a video here on Queen Anne's lace. It is both edible and medicinal, but it can be confused with other plants as well. But it does have a very distinguishing characteristic that separates it from other plants. And back in the parking area, we have plenty of Queen Anne's lace growing here. Also growing with the other flower that I'm filming today, chicory. I want to point out the one main distinguishing feature of the Queen Anne's lace though. The insects love it. Let's find a good specimen up here. Alright, well, it's time to find a more quiet spot to film. It's okay that people come and go, they're enjoying the outdoors, but it makes it difficult to film when there's just constantly people coming and going with their bikes and stuff. And so, but I got some specimens and we'll find a nice little spot to sit. Talk about Queen Anne's lace. I'll probably talk about my chicory there too as well. Alright, just gotta find a place to sit so we can film. Alright, so I think we found a nice little quiet spot. And I was getting ready to film. I told you there's that one distinguishing characteristic for Queen Anne's lace or wild carrot. And I was getting ready to show that to you, but then a whole another herd of bikers came in from the trail, so I had to, like I said, had to escape into the more private area here. But let me turn you around. I brought a specimen with me. Let me show you one of the main distinguishing characteristics for Queen Anne's lace. Alright, so here's the specimen I brought with me. And right in the middle of Queen Anne's lace, there is like this black or purple dot. I guess that's showing up on camera there. Right in the middle there. That is the distinguishing mark of Queen Anne's lace. If it doesn't have that, then it may not be Queen Anne's lace. I've seen some Queen Anne's lace flowers, even back in the parking lot, where I was trying to find that feature right there, and they didn't seem to have it, or hadn't opened up yet. But if you're going to eat Queen Anne's lace or use it medicinally, and you're not familiar with plants as well, if it doesn't have that feature right in the middle, just let it go. That is what marks as Queen Anne's lace. And like I mentioned, it can be confused with other plants. Actually, I did a video on yarrow not too long ago. Oh yeah, I mentioned at the beginning of this video I was going to mention why I'm doing Queen Anne's lace. It's because when I did the video on yarrow, which I have some here, which looks similar to Queen Anne's lace, one viewer called me out and said I had the wrong plant, that it wasn't yarrow, that was actually Queen Anne's lace, and so on and so on. Well, you're wrong. Not to be a jerk, but you're wrong about that. I do have yarrow with me. I found some out there as well, and I'll show you the difference between the two. And the main thing, yarrow does not have that black or purple dot feature in the middle. And it's quite different from Queen Anne's lace, but you can easily confuse the two. And I did delete that comment, not to be a jerk, but it was false information. They were telling viewers that it was a flower that it wasn't, and that can be dangerous in and of itself. So I don't know how to say this, but before you call me out saying I'm wrong about a plant, make sure you do your own research first. I do teach biology and botany. I am a plant person, so I'm not perfect. I do make mistakes, but don't give false information in the comments about things like that. All right, let me show you the difference between yarrow and Queen Anne's lace. So here I have them right next to each other. Here's the Queen Anne's lace and here's the yarrow. Once again, you know, the Queen Anne's lace has that feature in the middle and the yarrow doesn't. And the flowers are different in and of themselves. The wild carrot, the Queen Anne's lace looks much more lacy than the yarrow. And they often grow in the same areas. Like I found these both in the parking lot back there, so they could be easily confused with each other. But they are not the same flower or the same plant. There are also some poisonous plants that can be confused with Queen Anne's lace as well. There's a plant called hemlock, or water hemlock, not referring to the hemlock tree, which is Pennsylvania state tree, but there's a plant called hemlock, which actually looks very similar to the Queen Anne's lace. But once again, it doesn't have that feature in the middle of the flower. And there are other differences as well. If you're a plant person, you can tell the difference. Like water hemlock, the stems are more purplish color and things like that. So that's why you need to be careful. I said look for that little black or purple dot in the middle if you're gonna use it. And there are other plants too that look similar. There's wild parsnips, I think cow parsnips, and other plants that can be confused with Queen Anne's lace. A lot of them are in the same family as well, so that's why they look similar. All right, I'm gonna pop you up on the tripod here, and we'll talk about some edible and medicinal features here of Queen Anne's lace. All right, so once again, we are talking about Queen Anne's lace. Like I said, it does go by other names. It's often referred to as wild carrot because it is indeed a wild carrot. A little bit different from your cultivated varieties, but we'll talk about that. It also goes by other names, bishop's lace. There's that lace factor, and also sometimes it's called bird's nest. Because once the flowers, like right now, when it's in full bloom, it has this nice look, but later on, as it ages, it kind of folds up and looks like almost looks like a bird's nest. That's where it gets that word from. Now we got an ant on there. Get off my, whoops, I just broke the flower thing off. All right, okay. The Queen Anne's lace name comes, we were talking about that black or purple dot in the middle. Supposedly, Queen Anne, who is, you know, Queen of England, late 1600s, early 1700s. Apparently, she pricked herself, and a drop of blood fell on the flower, and that's what that little dark spot in the middle is. It's Queen Anne's blood on Queen Anne's lace. So that's where that name comes from. And as always, here is the scientific name, Docus carota. Well, the name carota should sound familiar. Carota, carrot. So carota can mean carrot, but it also refers to red of color. Of course, when I mentioned earlier, one of the classes I teach is botany, and of course, plants have certain pigments in them. You know, the green leaves is from chlorophyll, but in the fall, you know, a lot of plants have that orange or yellow color, and that comes from a pigment called carotenoids, which is where this word comes from, or carotenoids comes from the word carota. So carota means red or orange of color. Docus, that was a little bit harder. That's an older, I did a little bit of research this morning again. It's a little bit older word, Latin word, Docus. Some sources said that just means carrot too, but in my old notes it says it means burn, to burn something. And I did a little research too that it can also refer to something that's dark in nature. So the meaning of that was somewhat ambiguous. It could mean different things, but I seem to remember from the past that kind of has that dark meaning to it because Queen Anne's lace is highly medicinal. It was used for a lot of things. So if you used it, you were considered to be like a witch, you know, dark or something like that. So I seem to remember reading about that. I could be wrong, but I seem to remember reading about that somewhere. So that's its scientific name. And something important about wild carrots and carrots in general, they are biennials. See, what does that mean? You know, some plants are annuals. They only grow for a year and then they die. Some plants are perennials. They come back year after year from the same rootstock. Some plants only live for 2 years, and carrots are one of those. And what they do is, like during the first year of its growth, when it germinates from seed, it does not produce flowers its first year. That first year, it concentrates on growing that large taproot, the carrot, and then the following year, it uses all that energy that was stored in the taproot. The second year, it then produces that long, large flower stem to produce flowers. So then the first year of its growth, like I said, it just concentrates on storing up energy in that large root. That's why carrots have such large roots and we can eat them. But the following year, they use all that stored energy to send up the tall flowering stalk and to flower. So that's why if you grow carrots in your garden, they will not flower the first year. But if you forget to harvest them and leave them in the ground over winter, the following spring they will start growing again, and then they will send up a flower stalk. And if you wait to eat the carrots in the second year, when they're using all that energy for the flower, they won't taste good. They'll be all nasty and bitter and shriveled because they're using all the stored energy to make flowers. So let's talk about the edibility factor of the wild carrot. Obviously, the main thing would be the root, but like I said, don't dig it up in its second year growth. Otherwise, you'll get, not much of a root. Just be a shriveled up, nasty, bitter root. So you want to dig it up from first year Queen Anne's lace is what you would want. And even then, if you clean it off and bite into it, if you're expecting a nice, juicy, sweet, store-bought carrot taste, you're going to be greatly disappointed. They're still going to be kind of bitter and woody. The best thing to do is to cook them. If you're going to use them in a wild stew or something, it'd be to cook them up. Cook the bitterness out of them first before you eat them. That would be the best. Unless you're like starving and you just have to have something to eat, they might be palatable. But I've tried them before, and yeah, even store-bought carrots sometimes have a slight bitterness to them. So imagine, a carrot that's not even cultivated for eating. But yeah, but the roots are edible. So like I said, you just might be better off cooking them and stuff like that. I've also read that the flower heads are edible. I've never tried that. In my research, I learned something new, that people will dip this in pancake batter and then fry it and then eat it. So I've never tried that before. That was the first time I heard about it this morning. So there you go. And the seeds are also used for flavoring, I've read. Kind of maybe like how they use caraway seed and rye bread and stuff like that. So a similar thing like that. They also make a dye from the flowers. They're white, but I guess the dye gives off like a creamy white color to fabrics and stuff. So if you're into that kind of stuff, there you go. All right, as far as its list of medicinal qualities, here's that book I mentioned from years ago that I found. It has a whole list of some medicinal qualities. But as always in these videos, like I say it again, if you ever do use these wild plants for eating or for medicinal purposes, make sure you do your own research on identifying the plant properly and using it medicinally. Make sure you use it in the correct amounts that are suggested, because even plants that are good medicinally, if you use them the wrong way or in excess, they can cause unwanted or unhealthy problems, even death. So do your research. Don't just go off of what I say. So anyway, I'm going to read through some of the things on this list for you. This is probably just a short list in of itself. Remember I said, wild carrot, we talk about scientific name. A lot of times people that used Queen Anne's lace were considered, working in the dark arts or something, because it's one of those plants that seems to have, really effective medicinal qualities, which caused some people to think that you were a witch or something. Anyway, all right. Oh boy, a whole list of things. It's gonna be effective against worms. I'm doing a video on chicory as well, and chicory is also effective against worms. So a lot of plants like that. It was often used as a contraceptive back in the day. And ironically, it also promotes lactation. So anyway, I'm not going to go there. I may not want to take that. I don't want to start lactating. That would be awkward. It's a diuretic, so it promotes perspiration and helps you pee and stuff like that. Excessive pee. What's the point of excessive peeing or urination? Is to help get toxins out of your body. Helps with digestive orders, kidney and bladder situations. Oh boy, it can be a stimulant. It's supposed to be helpful with your eyes. Anti-wrinkle. I don't have to worry about that yet, but I guess you can make a cream from it to help the wrinkles. All kinds of stuff. Yeah, flow of urine. It helps purify the blood as well. So it's one of those plants that will be purifying. So a whole list of medicinal purposes. And I'm sure you could find a lot more on the internet. And as all things go with these medicinal plants too, sometimes some of the medicinal properties actually do work, and sometimes some of them are more folklore and don't work, so just be careful about that too. I do believe in the medicinal power of plants, because when I did that video on yarrow, I talked about how yarrow, it was one of the first plants I realized can actually help you medicinally. Like, it stops the bleeding. It worked just like that. So the medicinal power of plants is real, but sometimes they there's sometimes some folklore type stuff in there as well that isn't quite as accurate. So you got to be able to, you know, see into that kind of stuff as well. All right, I think that's it for the medicinal qualities of the carrot. Like I said, there's probably a ton more, some I missed, but you know, you can do your own research too. So that'll be it for Queen Anne's lace. And like I said, just if you're going to work with it, just make sure you properly identify it. Look for that black or purple dot. There's a name for that thing, I forget what it is offhand. Look for that. And sometimes I have found flowers that don't have that in it, but it's still Queen Anne's lace. But unless you're really good with plants, like I don't need to see the black or purple dot to know it's Queen Anne's lace. I just know it is. So, but anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you around.